Hey, what's up, guys? This is Benny Ricciardi with rotocurve.com, and I'm here with our DraftKings FanDuel MLB Benny's Bats edition for Wednesday, June 29th. We have a split slate today. Half the games are going off around noon. The other half the games are going to be a 7 o'clock Eastern start like it usually is. And we're going to concentrate on the late slate like we always do. We do have some pretty good pitching on the mound today. Definitely a couple high-end guys. And we also have some gas cans and some bats that we're going to be looking for. So let's talk about it. Let's get into it. What we like to do here in the Benny's Bat section is we go through each game one by one. We figure out who the pitchers on the mound are, which guys they kind of struggle against, and then which batters on the other team do the best against them. So the first game we're going to look at is the New York Mets against the Washington Nationals. Max Scherzer on the mound for the Nationals. Very tough on right-handed bats. The Mets are kind of devoid of most of the lefties that they have right now. You know, the only two lefties that are really scaring me at all in this lineup, you got Curtis Granderson leading off. You got Neil Walker batting fourth. And to be perfectly honest with you, neither one of these guys is, a big reason why I wouldn't take Scherzer today. I know Scherzer had a rocky start last time, and I'm usually on the wrong side of Scherzer. He's kind of a guy that I don't get right all that often. But I really just can't see the Mets putting up a lot of runs against him today. So I think this is going to be a really good spot for Scherzer. On the other side of this game, the Mets have called up a young guy that they've been bringing up and down as a spot starter in Logan Verrett. He's actually not that bad, but right-handed bats have been doing better against him. Left-handed bats are okay as well, even though he's a right-handed pitcher. I think the two guys who make the most sense to target against them, Bryce Harper, 447 WOBA, 317 ISO. Did hit a home run yesterday, although it wasn't off of Harvey, who he's still like 1 of 25 lifetime against. The other guy I really like is Daniel Murphy. Murphy has cooled off considerably from when he was hitting 400 earlier this year. 372 WOBA for him, 216 ISO. But like I said, I do like the left-handed bats here. You might even be able to throw a guy like Ben Revere in there at the top of the order. He's been doing a really good job at the leadoff spot for them. Getting some hits, stealing some bases, scoring some runs. All the things we really want from a leadoff guy, and his price is still pretty reasonable. I didn't actually look at it before I came on here today, but unless they jacked it up from what it's been the last couple of days, he's been one of those guys in the 3K-ish range. That helps you fit in a big bat like Bryce Harper and Daniel Murphy, and still have some money to spend on pitching and the other spots that you need. Next game we're going to talk about is going to be the Texas Rangers against the New York Yankees. Masahiro Tanaka on the mound for the Yankees, and he's been tough on both right and left-handed bats the last couple of years. Right-handed bats actually reverse splits, do have a little bit of a higher average against them, a few more home runs. And Tanaka's a guy that can get tagged for the solo home run, but as long as he pitches his game and he doesn't walk a lot of guys, he doesn't give up a lot of hits, you can get tagged for a solo home run or two as long as, like I said, you don't give up any base runners. You get tagged for 2 solo shots. It's only 2 runs that you're giving up. If your offense can't get you more than 2 runs, it's on them that the fact that you didn't win a game. So you can still pitch a quality start by giving up a home run here or there. What it does tell me, though, is if I'm looking at some of the bats here, I want guys that have that home run pop. Like I said, the right-handers have been better against them. So a guy like Adrian Beltre makes a little bit of sense. He's actually 2 for 3 lifetime against Tanaka already as well. Jurickson Profar has got a little bit of pop. He actually has, I know it hasn't been a lot of at-bats for him, but right now his major league WOBA and ISO score in the last 2 years is a 465 WOBA with a 242 ISO against right-handed pitching. For a guy in righty on righty, you got to think that comes down at some point, but it kind of underlines how hot of a start that he is off to for his major league career. The one lefty bat that I think I'd give a look at here is Shin-Soo Choo, who's going to be up at top of this order. 385 WOBA for him, 197 ISO, 2 of 3 lifetime against Tanaka. So Choo, Beltre, Profar, those are the 3 guys that I really want in this Rangers team if I'm going to take anybody against Tanaka. Like I said, Tanaka's a guy who doesn't give up a lot of hits. He will get tagged for maybe a home run or 2, but I can't see him giving up 7 or 8 runs in this game. 3 would probably be the most, 5 if he has a bad start. He's really not a team that you want to stack bats up against. On the other side of this game, we got Nick Martinez. Martinez is making his 3rd start of 2016. He really hasn't been all that good. He is home run prone, but, there's not really a lot of bats on the Yankees that I think I love against them. I do love Beltran, 360 WOBA, 215 ISO for him. He's been their best bat all season. Left-handed bat at Yankee Stadium. I think that's a pretty good spot for him. I also like Brian McCann. Again, left-handed bat, a little bit of power, Yankee Stadium against a guy, Martinez, that's been known to give up home runs. Those are the two guys I like the most. If you want to use Ellsbury and Gardner, that's fine. I think both of these guys have been way too expensive, and they just don't do enough to pay it off. They're not stealing enough bases to pay it off. They're definitely not hitting home runs to pay it off. And, they're not going 3 for 5 every game. So, they're giving you okay production, but, there's much better spots. So for me, it's Beltran, McCann, or it's nothing. Next game we can talk about, we got Cleveland against Atlanta. Danny Salazar pitching for Cleveland, and doesn't give up a lot of hits. He does have a decently high walk rate, strikes out a decent amount of guys as well. Right-handed bats do have a little bit of a higher average against them. But, I mean, this Atlanta team is not really good. Bauer and Kluber both had pretty good starts against them the last 2 days, and I expect Salazar to have a good start here too. The problem is at 12,200, you need him to have a great start to really return, upside value. I don't know if we get there, but I definitely am not going to be looking to take many of the Atlanta bats. If I take anybody, it's going to be Freddie Freeman. Against right-handed pitching, he's the only actual major league level talent that I think they have on that team. So outside of Freddie Freeman, I'm not looking at anybody on Atlanta. Atlanta is throwing a kid named Casey Kelly today. He was recalled from AAA. He was up in the majors a little bit earlier this year, and he kind of got lit up a little bit. So I do think that this Cleveland team is in line to put up some runs, and this is a stack that I really like. I love Kipnis, 375 WOBA, 179 ISO. Love Lindor, 354 WOBA, 163 ISO. Those two guys hitting in the 2 and 3 spot, I think, are both in play. I would like to see Carlos Santana leading off here today. 345 WOBA, huge 225 ISO score. If he's leading off and he's guaranteed that extra at bat on the road, I think I like him as well. And then, at that point, I'd go down to Napoli or, Rajay Davis if he's up there in the order, maybe Alani Chisenhall, who's been hitting well lately. This Cleveland offense has actually been doing a good job. And, like I said, Casey's basically a AAA pitcher. When he was up in the majors last time, he got lit up. So I fully expect the Indians to do well against him here. Next game, we can talk about the LA Dodgers against the Milwaukee Brewers. Carlos Frias pitching for the Dodgers, and he was somebody that was up in the majors in 2015. Left-handed bats absolutely killed him. Right-handed bats were okay against him. This is his first start of 2016 after coming up from AAA, and his numbers in AAA weren't anything spectacular. So, you look at that Milwaukee team, you got Jonathan Villar and Scooter Gennett at the top of the order. With the struggles Frias has with left-handed bats, I think those two guys are definitely in play. And then behind him, Jonathan Lucroy, 350 WOBA, Ryan Braun, 357 WOBA, 206 ISO score. Those are the best two right-handed bats in righty-on-righty situations. So I like Villar and Scooter leading it off. I like Ryan Braun and Lucroy backing them up. Those are the 4 guys that I would kind of be looking at in this Milwaukee team. If you want to go with a guy like Chris Carter, you can. 248 ISO score for him, so he does have that home run upside. Again, though, he basically is a very binary outcome. He either hits a home run for you, or he usually winds up, like 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts or something along those lines. On the other side of this game, we got Junior Guerrero pitching. This guy's actually not a bad pitcher. Right-handed bats do a tad better against him, and he's actually been having a pretty decent season. Righty on righty is the way that you can get at him. So I really like Justin Turner in this matchup. The 3-hole hitter for this Dodgers team, 368 WOBA, 207 ISO in righty-on-righty situations. I also like Trace Thompson a little bit, 344 WOBA, 210 ISO. Both of these guys are very good right-handed bats against right-handed pitching, which seems to be the way to attack Junior Guerrero this year. That's kind of where his struggle is. He's been a little bit tougher on the left-handed bats for some reason. The one lefty I wouldn't mind taking is Corey Seager, 400 WOBA for him, 237 ISO. I just love this kid. I mean, there was a string last week where it basically seemed like everything that he hit was either a double in the gap or a home run. And, you watch him bat up there. He's so confident at the plate. He's so calm at the plate. He waits for his pitches. He has a really good mental approach to hitting the baseball for a kid that's so young. So Seager, definitely one of my favorite players. Definitely somebody I wouldn't mind having some exposure to today. Minnesota's going up against the Chicago White Sox. That's the next game. We got James Shields on the mound for the White Sox, and Shields is currently, in my opinion, the worst pitcher in the major leagues. High average to both righties and lefties this year. A lot of runs allowed, although lefties are usually much better against them. and he has a huge home run rate to both right and left-handed batters. So, the Twins are not really great against right-handed pitching. Uh, you know, I mean, I think basically the way you want to play this game, you're either not going to take any of these guys on the Twins, or you're going to stack them all up because Shields is that bad. That's pretty much the way that I see this game. There's nobody with really good numbers that kind of stands out. I mean, Eduardo Nunez is okay. You can look at a guy like Kepler, who's not bad, especially as a left-handed bat. But, if you're saying to me, I need a one-off and I want to take somebody from the Twins game, who do you take? Well, whatever position you need, because honestly, I think all these guys are about the same. And if you look at their numbers, they're all like 325 to 340 kind of WOBA guys. So a little below the threshold we kind of look at. There's a couple guys that have a little bit of pop, like Dozier and Plouffe and Park. But like I said, nobody really stands out as, oh, well, this is definitely the guy you need from this game. So for me, I'm either stacking Twins up to go up against Shields, or I'm not playing any of the Twins at all. That's the way that I see this game coming out. The other side of this game, you got Ricky Nolasco. Now, he's another guy. He's given up a 290 batting average to both right and left-handed bats this year. I'm not thrilled with this White Sox offense. I mean, this White Sox offense, if they could put up any runs, they'd probably be doing a lot better this year, because they got really solid pitching, and they've been getting really solid pitching from 3 or 4 different guys. But the offense isn't able to score to give these guys any kind of backup. So, it's really not translating into wins for them. I do like Abreu and Anderson, the 2 right-handed bats. I also like Adam Eaton and Melky Cabrera. All 4 of these guys are around 350 WOBA guys, so they're all decent plays. And Nolasco, like I said, 290 batting average to both left and right-handed bats, so it's not like this isn't a guy that teams can hit. Again, the White Sox haven't been putting up a ton of runs, though, so I don't know if I'm stacking up this team, considering that, they haven't really had any good games in a couple weeks. Next game we can look at, we got Kansas City at St. Louis. We got Carlos Martinez on the mound for St. Louis, and he's been solid. He's actually been really good in his last 5. He's got a low number of hits allowed, no number of runs allowed. His Ks aren't as high as I would like to see them. Left-handed bats are the way you want to go after him. They have the higher average, and basically all the home runs that get hit off them are hit off them by lefties. I do think it's a little bit of a tough matchup, though. I mean, Kansas City is not the team that they were last year, but they're still very patient. They still take a lot of pitches. They make pitchers work. They got a lot of guys that can put the ball in play. So like I said, it's not really an easy matchup. I do like Eric Hosmer, 390 WOBA for him, probably the best bat that they have in that team. I also like the fact that Alex Gordon is back now. I don't know why he wasn't hitting. It might have been because I think they were facing a lefty yesterday, so they put the righties at the top of the order. But against the righty and Carlos Martinez, they'll probably have the lefty Gordon hitting in the 2 spot, and I think that's a pretty decent place for him. On the other side of this game, we got Edinson Volquez pitching. Houston lit him up the last time out. I mean, in 1 inning, he gave up 11 runs. Didn't even get out of the first inning in his last start. And the St. Louis team actually hits right-handed pitching better than they hit left-handed pitching. Carpenter, obviously the guy that stands out the most, the left-handed third baseman, who's actually a left-handed second baseman now. He's playing second and third this year. They've been moving him around the diamond. You got guys like Holiday, Piscotty. You got the lefties like Moss and Adams. I mean, there's a lot of bats that I think we can look at here against Volquez. Volquez, sometimes he comes out and he looks like a superstar. Sometimes he comes out and just, you wonder how this guy's a major leaguer. I mean, he's had starts with 7 or 8 Ks where he's been dominant, and he's had other starts like the last one where he's given up 11 runs and didn't even get out of the first inning. So, with the last start being as bad as it was, I don't know if something's wrong with him. But mentally, he needs to have a good start to bounce back. And I don't usually think that guys go from giving up 11 runs in 1 start and then coming back and throwing no hitters. So I do expect him to get knocked around a little bit by the St. Louis team. Next game we can talk about, we got San Francisco at Oakland. Jake Peavy on the mound for San Francisco, and he's looked good in 5 of his last 6 starts. Those 5 starts, though, have been against Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, San Diego, Atlanta, and the LA Dodgers. Now, the Dodgers are the best team out of those 5, obviously, and even they have struggled a little bit this year. But Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, San Diego, and Atlanta are 4 teams that we have been targeting pitchers against all season long. So people are looking at Peavy and seeing the 18 to 20 points that he's put up in 5 of his last 6 starts and saying, oh, Peavy's great, Peavy's back, Peavy's going to be the man again. You're talking Philly, who basically has no upside. Tampa Bay, who we talk about all the time, how they struggle against right-handed pitching. San Diego, same exact problem. All right-handers against right-handed pitching. Atlanta is actually a little bit better against righties than lefties, but they're still one of the worst teams in the league against right-handed pitching. So, yeah, he put up 18 points, but it's basically like he put up 18 points against 4 of the worst teams in the league. Now, with that being said, it's not like Oakland is one of the best teams in the league either, but, they did look a lot better yesterday. They did get Josh Reddick back. The lineup has a little bit more length to it. Instead of Stephen Vogt hitting third, Stephen Vogt's hitting sixth now. Reddick has actually been their best bat against right-handed pitching, so putting him back in there, he's somebody that I would definitely take a little bit of a look at. You got Valencia and Chris Davis, 2 right-handed bats there, but righty on righty, both of these guys have done well, and PV righty on righty has given it up to right-handed bats, so I think Valencia and Davis are in there. Like I said, this could be a little bit of a sneaky spot for this Oakland team. I don't think PV is as good as the numbers have shown. I think you're going to hear a lot of people talking about how he's a great play today. I do not think he's a great play at all. I mean, you do have this Oakland team coming off of – I fell asleep last night, but I fell asleep. The score was like 13-10 in that game. So, you got a game that had 23 runs scored. Bullpens both were, heavily involved in that game. So I think they're going to have to get 5 or 6 innings out of PV today. And like I said, I think Oakland can knock them around a little bit. So I kind of like some of these Oakland bats. Reddick being my favorite, Valencia and Davis being the 2 behind it. Maybe Coco Crisp or Billy Burns up at the top of the order. And Vogt is batting 6th now. He's no longer as important as he was when he was in the 3-hole hitter for this team and when we can get him cheap. And even then, it wasn't like he was a great play. On the other side of this game, we got Sean Manaea, the rookie left-hander. Very tough on left-handed bats for him. Right-handed bats have been the way to attack him. They're hitting over 300, 7 home runs and 37 innings pitched. I actually think this is a little bit of a tough spot here for San Francisco. You look at the top of that order, a lot of the big right-handed bats on San Francisco are hurt. They got Denard Span leading off. They got Panic hitting second. They got Belt hitting third or fourth. Brandon Crawford hitting 5th or 6th. That's 4 of their biggest bats, not named Buster Posey, are all left-handed. So I think this could be a pretty tough spot for them, if they don't figure out a way to get some more right-handed bats into that lineup. Posey is the best hitter they have against left-handed pitching, 367 WOBA for him, 181 ISO. So, Posey probably my favorite play that I'm going to be trying to squeeze into some lineups here. Again, the game is in Oakland, so it's not really a great hitter's park, but it's also a place that they put up 23 runs last night, so I don't think you want to completely shy away from it. Last game up here for the night slate, Pittsburgh at Seattle. Jameson Taillon is pitching for Pittsburgh. The big prospect that they have. Everybody was so excited because he almost threw, I think he had a no-hitter going into the 7th against the Mets. He's now made 4 starts, and with the exception of that really good start against a really bad Mets lineup at the time, he's kind of gotten lit up in all the rest of those starts, like 5 or 6 hits in over 5 innings, giving up like 3 or 4 runs over that course of time. So I see no reason why the Mariners, who actually have been hitting the ball pretty well this year, can't get to him. Robinson Cano, my favorite bat. If you're looking at a lefty to take against the righty, 377 WOBA, 218 ISO. Corey Seager, 348, 201, also in play, has some power upside. And then you can look at the guys, the righty on righty guys that have been big bats for them. Nelson Cruz, 364, 225, so I like him a little bit. Dae-Ho Lee, 359 WOBA, 206 ISO, so I like him a little bit. Like I said, I think you can look at a lot of guys on this, on this Seattle team. I'm kind of staying away from like the Steve Smiths and the Franklin Gutierrez's this game. Smith will probably get the start. If they do bring in a lefty, though, Gutierrez will come in. Those 2 guys are pretty much interchangeable. So for fantasy, I really don't want either one of them. I want to make sure I have guys that are going to get the number of at-bats I think they can, so I can, reasonably project what I'm looking for out of them. On the other side of this game, we got Wade Miley back. Right-handed bats have been the way to go after him. He is a left-handed pitcher. There's really not a lot of bats on this Pittsburgh team that do incredibly well against left-handed pitching. The biggest bat they have and the guy with the best numbers is actually Andrew McCutchen. But again, he's in a little bit of a slump. Does have a 359 WOBA, does have a 174 ISO against left-handed pitching since the start of 2015. He has hit left-handed pitching well his whole career, as has Sterling Marte as well. David Freese, another guy that does. Jordy Mercer, another guy that does. Jung Ho Kang, I think, is actually better against right-handers, but he can hit left-handed pitching as well. he was out of the lineup yesterday. I'm not exactly sure why that was, but if he's back in there in the lineup, he's the guy to look at too. But again, Seattle, not the greatest hitters ballpark, so not really the place you want to be, looking for a ton of bats there. So that wraps it up for the late slate. Like I said, we only have 8 games on tap. Scherzer is on the mound. I think he's going to be incredibly popular tonight, and rightfully so. Mets lineup's kind of been struggling a little bit, and I hope that people are off him after that bad outing that he had last time. Because when he has a bad outing, he tends to come back and get a little bit pissed off and, strike out 10 or 12 guys and go 8 innings or, wind up putting up a complete game on 108 pitches or something like that. So kind of hoping he does that tonight, because from the early lineups I made, I do have a lot of exposure to him. And remember, the Colorado game is in the early part of the slate here today, which is why they had to wait to get that other game in last night. Probably going to see a lot of the regulars sitting, because the game last night didn't start until incredibly late. Like I said, I fell asleep, before it was even over. But I think they are playing an early game here today, so I think you're going to see a lot of the regulars sitting in that game. And it is in the early slate, so we don't got to worry about the Coors game for tonight, which is always a good thing. So thank you guys for joining us here at rotocurve.com, and as always, stay classy, DFS.